Hello, everyone. I'm excited to get the opportunity to talk to you today. I'm going to touch on global staffing approaches and choosing the right fit for international roles. We know from staffing in our last chapter that not one size fits all. Organizations must have the right approach based on strategy, location, talent availability, and employee readiness. So before we dig on in too deep, I am going to go to our agenda. We are going to define those global staffing approaches, benefits and challenges related to global staffing approaches, the determinants of staffing choices, as well as the biblical worldview and ethical global selection, evaluation of benefit versus challenges, and a quick recap and summary before we wrap up. So before we get into defining global staffing approaches, let's talk about what parent country national means. That means that our employees are citizens of where our company headquarters is, versus our host country nationals are citizens of where our foreign subsidiary is located. And then third country nationals are completely separate because they are not a citizen of the parent country or the host country. They are a citizen of another country. So that allows us to go into global staffing and how it focuses on how multinational corporations fill key headquarters and subsidiary roles using parent country, host country, and third country nationals. Staffing decisions influence how organizations balance headquarter control, local responsiveness, and global integration. And we are going to touch on specifically four main approaches that Dowling brought us in Chapter 5, the ethnocentric, polycentric, geocentric, and regiocentric staffing. These approaches allow us to have a framework, but staffing choices at the end of the day should be intentional rather than reactive or ad hoc. At the end of the day, HR is all about strategy. So using these effective staffing approaches requires HR to be considered in business strategy, local conditions, employee readiness, and cross-cultural fits. So benefits. As we go into the benefits of global staffing approaches, I want to explain that each approach offers different advantages. So when we're talking about ethnocentric approaches and polycentric, geocentric, and regiocentric, the main benefit of all of these approaches is that they give multinational organizations choice. So it's really going to depend on that situation of what the organization may need. Do they need more headquarters control? Do they need a stronger local responsiveness? Do they need a broader global talent pool, or do they need some more regional coordination? So your ethnocentric is going to be more of an HQ, headquarters control, headquarters communication, coordination, and controlling the international operations. Maybe it's a new company to the international realm, and they want to make sure that they're holding on to that. But the polycentric is going to be a little bit different because it's going to reduce some of the language barriers. It's going to have less adjustment issues, hopefully, and it's going to reduce cost at the end of the day because there won't be someone coming in from where headquarters is. It's going to be hiring somebody local, which means that they already know the language, the culture, and the political environment that they are in. So geocentric staffing can help develop that international executive team because it's going to allow you to have a wider view. You're looking for the best talent, not a nationality. So it doesn't matter where their nationality is, but what is the best talent within the company. And then that regio-centric staffing approach is going to be more of a regional support system where you can take the time to improve regional coordination and still be sensitive to those local conditions So these approaches allow flexibility, that those choices we talked about earlier. These allow HR to match the staffing decision to the business need. Now, there are going to be some challenges. Just like anything else, no approach is perfect. So, when we're talking about these approaches, the ethnocentric staffing may limit some advancement opportunities for host country nationals and create concerns when it comes to fairness or compensation differences. Um, Parent country assignments may involve some adjustment challenges, and those won't just hit the employee, but the families as well in that host country. Um, Polycentric staffing may create some distance between headquarters and subsidiaries, causing a little more distance. In the book, we refer to it as federation effect. Um, Geocentric staffing may face some larger issues: immigration, work permits, issues with staff or spouse or partners getting employment, training and relocation, as well as some compensation challenges. And then the regiocentric staffing may improve regional career paths, but still limit that broader global movement and perspective. So, each one has their limitations. None is perfect. Um, but in the end, you can use a variety of them. You don't have to use one. One approach doesn't fit all. So it's really going to depend on what the company needs. Determinants of staffing choices. Staffing choices um, are interesting. Remember in our textbook, Dowling provided us with figure 5.1, and it explains why staffing decisions are situational. Situational on the company, and what they have going on. So when we're looking at staffing choices, um, they are shaped by the context-specific factors, by the cultural values, that staff availability that I spoke of earlier, and it also is that industry type. And then you've got to take into account the institutional environments, such as the legal system and the education system that influence staffing. And that can even lead to host country effects that can shape the subsidiary staffing because of the local environments and how multinational enterprises operate. It can also have some company specific factors that include some structure, strategy, international experience, corporate governance, and organizational structure. With international HR management practices, we've got to look at selection, training, compensation, career management to help sustain that preferred staffing approach. So, rolling into our biblical worldview and ethical global selection. Global selection should consider the whole person, not the technical ability or the organizational need. It is going to not just ask whether someone has the technical ability to perform the job, it's going to look at the whole picture. So that's going to include a lot of things that we don't think about in the domestic HR realm. What about the employee's family, the adjustment needs that are there, or host country context? So when we're looking at those staffing decisions, we need to make sure that the ethical tensions that are there with the business goals are meeting what we're looking for. In my research preparing for this, I found an article by Benai and Sama from 2000 that emphasized that international staffing policies should be evaluated for their ethical impact, not just cost and efficiency. We know for being in HR, bottom line, a lot of times is cost, but we want to make sure that we are looking out for people in these roles. So going to the Bible, James 1:5, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Because this really connects well with wisdom and fairness and the care for others that I'm trying to bring out. in this slide because we're looking at the whole person. So explaining international staffing policies. Sometimes a lot of that goes back to that cost line and efficiency line. But if we're looking at Philippians 2, 3 through 4, do nothing out of self-ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Because at the end of the day, our goal as HR leaders to balance the whole person, treat people with the dignity, care, fairness, and humility. We need to be taking care of those with us and in business with us, not just those other neighbors. We need to look at the whole picture and not just that technical ability or organizational need that the company has. Now we're going to get into the evaluations of benefits versus challenges. So the evaluation, it's about trade-offs. There's no single approach that's going to work best for every country, every role, or every organizational situation. When we look at the different approaches, ethnocentric staffing may strengthen control, but it can increase cost and limit the host country national advancement. Polycentric staffing may improve local fit, but it may separate subsidiaries from headquarters. Geocentric and regiocentric staffing can expand talent options, but they require strong coordination and consistent HR systems. The best decision depends on the organization's strategy, host country context, and employee readiness and ethical responsibility. So for a quick recap and summary, global staffing approaches help multinational organizations decide how to fill the key international opportunities that are out there. The ethnocentric, polycentric, geocentric, and regiocentric approaches can offer different advantages as well as limitations. Effective staffing decisions depend on business strategy, host country realities, talent availability, and role expectations. So as we're looking at selection, we should also consider that cross-cultural suitability, family adjustment, country context, and ethical responsibility. Overall, the strongest global staffing decisions are strategic, contextual, and people-centered. So to wrap up my presentation, I have referenced the article I used, our textbook, as well as the NIV Bible that I have used. I appreciate your time today. Good luck and God bless.